Hey, I thought it might be cool to look inside of the Neo Geo Mini. I'm a big Neo Geo fan, and I've seen people online talking about this thing, saying that it was kind of cool, but maybe not the greatest. So I figured, hey, buy one for $100 off Amazon and take a look. So yeah, let's see what's inside. La, la, la. Come see the softer side of Sears. Oh wait, we're out of business. Hashtag done. Yeah, so. Well, it says there's 40 Neo Geo masterpieces. I've always been under the impression that you can only have one masterpiece. That's why it's your masterpiece. Okay, well, it's using kind of a weird color scheme. Hey, remember all those blue Neo Geos that you saw in the arcade? Yeah, me neither. Yeah, okay. What else is in here? Stuff. I heard that this doesn't come with a power brick. That's the new thing. They'll give you the cable but not the brick. I'm sure they're like, oh, it's because everyone has a, USB power adapter thing, but really it's just to save money. Everything is just to save money. That is the only reason anyone does anything ever. Actually, that's a USB-C, so I'm going to need to find one with a just USB. Oh, I bet these are stickers for the marquee. Yeah, who cares about that? Instruction book for losers. Oh, this is an analog joystick. Kind of like this. So we got some buttons there, mushy analog stick, HDMI. Oh yeah, I think you can plug controllers into this, which of course I didn't buy because you know what I'm going to do with this. HDMI out, this must be the power button, seems like it. I suppose I should turn it on before I take it apart, but of course I want to take it apart. This logo is normally seen with the home machine, not necessarily the arcade. I mean, let's face it, nobody had this thing in the home edition because it was a fortune, but everyone saw it in the arcades. Wow! Top Players Golf. Hello, Neo Turf Masters, please. Come on. Well, this menu kind of sucks. Magician Lord, this is the first game I ever played on the Neo Geo. Back in '91, I want to say. A, B, C, D? Look at this. A, B, C, D. That's odd. Big question I would have about this is it stereo? The sound on the Neo Geo, it was actually, when it came out, a lot of arcade games weren't in stereo. Actually, how do I get out of this menu? Come on. Okay, so you have to hit A instead of start on the menu. Got it. Is there any way to change the volume? The screen is pretty bright. Oh, look at this ass. That's fire. That's jump. Is that remappable? Okay, so this is the censored version. Well, it's not censored. The government didn't censor it, so it's the corporation that chooses to make something less violent version. See how there's white spit coming out of them? And some people have said that's because it's the international version, but actually even the American cartridges would have a default setting of no violence unless you went into the game setting of the Neo Geo arcade machine and changed it back. So, oh, okay. Oh, there we go. All right, let's deuce that. Oh, it has safe states too. That's cool. Okay, back. I'm going to pick Magician Lord because it's got really great music. And that would help me determine if this is stereo or not before I take it apart. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell because the speakers are so close together, you don't really get much of a separation. It seems like they could have been on the sides, maybe. How to be a Magician Lord. This is like Benedict Cumberbatch Begins. Whoa, this is different. What the heck? I've never seen this before. Okay, that's not like the American ROM. I actually used to own this actual MVS cartridge. So there's two speaker holes, and if you cover either one, you can hear the sound reduce. So that tells you there are actually two speakers. Whether or not they're discrete, that's another question. Let's see. Let's crank this up. Die, Claw Man. Well, that was fun. I think it's time to take it apart. So the power button in back here, it's click in, click out, which is pretty cool. That should help us out. Oh, gee, I wonder where the screws are. Oh, I'd forgotten what HDMI stood for, so I'm glad that SNK reminded me. HDMI is the, you know, it's like a, what do they call the Neo Geo? Like max 330 mega pro gear spec? Something like that. So, if you're not familiar with the Neo Geo, it was an arcade system that was meant to be modular. So the arcade owner would just buy, you know, a Neo Geo arcade machine. It would have like 2 to 6 slots in it, typically 4. And then the operator could buy the games as cartridges. So they would get the cartridge and then like a little mini marquee, so they could really easily change, you know, what game was inside of it. So it's kind of like even more of an evolution than just JAMA, which was the standard from the mid-'80s. Because before JAMA, all the arcade machines had different connectors, ways of attaching the boards, different power supplies, and it was actually making it really difficult for the operators to keep everything running. So when they did the JAMA standard, basically caused everything to have the same edge connector, which is kind of cool. So you could take like a, you know, a Ghouls and Ghosts and plug in a Street Fighter 2 board and it would be the same. And the Neo Geo arcade system also had a JAMA connector on it. But it took it a step further where you could just, you know, basically put in a new cartridge for the game. And the cartridges were pretty physically big. I'm guessing there's no screws down here. Oh, no, there are. Yeah, that's pretty solid. Anyway, the cartridges were pretty big. And there's actually 2 sets of circuit boards inside the cartridges. So if you looked at an old Neo Geo cartridge, you'd see 2 card edge connectors in it. And basically there's just a ton of storage space on them, at least for the time. They had 330 mega Pro Gear spec. Wasn't actually the limit, it was just a number they pulled out of their ass that sounded cool. And of course those are mega bits, not bytes. So if they're like, oh, this is an 8 mega cartridge, that means it's 1 megabyte. Byte divided by 8 is bits. There's your 8x scale factor. Now that I told you a lovely story about JAMA, let's see what's inside this thing. JAMA Lama. Okay. Well, they have a molded support for the buttons and the joystick. That's nice of them. Alright, well, it looks like the controls are their own separate little board here. Oh yes, the telltale pattern of 2 potentiometers on an analog stick. That's going to be your main ARM chip. See how they have a bunch of vias under it? That's basically allowing it to disperse heat into the bottom side of the PCB as well. This should just pop out. Yep. So yeah, oh, this is like a really cheap one. This analog, yeah, yeah, but it looks pretty straightforward. So clearly, this is using an analog input. You know, basically two potentiometers that create a range of voltages when you move it. So converting that to digital won't be super straightforward, but also won't be that hard. Oh yeah, so yeah, take a look at this. Speaker left, speaker right. There are definitely two different speakers. Oh, see that? That is probably the LCD going to the screen, if I had to guess. Oh, it's got like a little cell phone style connector there. See that? Interesting. Just one screw holding it in. It seems that way. I mean, anyone who's ever watched my work before clearly knows what I want to do with this. Remember that Neo Geo Gold thing they had a couple years ago, like the portable unit? I had that thing in my Amazon cart so many times. I really wanted it, but I heard it wasn't very good. So there's a furnace running in the background, but you get the idea. Although this basement is very well lit, you can see the reflection of all the LED lights in this shield. Alright, well, just taking a look here, obviously we have the USB-C power input here, headphone jack, which is mounted in a very weird way. Look how they did that. They wanted to keep this all very much in line, see? So they actually offset it with another piece of PCB, it looks like. Wonder why they did that. I mean, it's great for my purposes if I want to portabilize it. It's kind of weird. Even the power switch, look at that. It's on its own little riser. Oh, back here, this can be your main arm, and then you can see a cluster of vias, which is probably going to be your NAND flash, and then your RAM, if I had to guess. Is this soldered in place, or is this clipped in place? Yeah, it just feels like it's clipped in place. Let's say the build quality of this, pretty impressive. And you know, you can be impressed in a negative way. You know, like, oh, I was impressed with how much of a douchebag that person was. But in this case, it's impressive in a positive way. Yeah, I mean, the fact that they took the time to put in these little clips, like right there. See, the metal fits into that, so that's actually, yeah. A lot of times these are just soldered in place. I wonder if this shield is being used for any heat sinking or just for RF shielding purposes. I guess we'll find out momentarily. Okay, so it's not sinking any heat. If it was, you'd see little pads on the back of this. Instead, it's insulated. Oh, we have 4 chips here. This is actually a pretty beefy one right here, this big arm. Okay, so it's going to be your, I'm assuming your NAND flash here. That's your RAM. Not sure what that is. That might be, I don't know. You know what? Maybe I don't even care. Yeah, take a look at that. Power, ground, RX, TX. So I wonder if you could terminal into this. Oh, so that's just your power input cap. That can be moved anywhere, really. There's your main oscillator crystal. Some of this proprietary stuff from China, you can't find data sheets at all. But if you want to make this, into a portable, look how thin it is. It is thin. Yes. I wonder if there's anything on that port. Oh, and as far as making it like a portable unit, obviously USB-C has a very dense connector. But if you look right here, we have a pair of 0 ohm resistors, which are probably just acting as a physical jumper over a layer. Or they could be acting as fuses, so that's probably a pretty good place to apply power without having to use the micro USB connector. Because, you know, if you were like trying to pack this up, like you can't just put a connector in and then attach power there. I mean, well, you could, but it's not very elegant. Oh. I find that USB-C seems to collect a lint better than other USB ports of the past. How is the screen held in place? I see some tabs back there. Is that all that's holding it in place? I don't see any screws. Because remember, screws cost money. So if you can do it with just plastic tabs, you'll get a bonus. There are some screws in the back there, but I'm assuming those are probably just keeping the top blue thing on, since it's two separate pieces of plastic. Although that might actually have tabs holding the screen as well. Yeah, I'm going to take the top off. Alright, remove those two screws with this really long lobotomy screwdriver. Wait, come back here, lobotomy screwdriver, I need you. I don't think my hands will fit in there. I think I might. Gotta get these tabs out of the way. I'll just grab my old faithful big ass screwdriver that can do anything. Alright, you could build an entire pyramid with this screwdriver. And if Felix were here, he'd say, really? You don't need like bricks or sand? Oh yeah, see, that was being held in place by the blue topper thing. Not anymore. Yeah, see? No screws holding that in place. Oh, there's your two little speakers. And there's your LCD. Should come out just like this. It's a nice little screen. See, just take that. Right? And like that. Well, my portable is done. Thank you very much. Make like a little Game Boy out of it. That might be kind of cool. Like just, yeah. That actually might be the better way to go. Reason for that being, there's supposed to be 4 action buttons like this, not 1, 2, 3, 4. So not like this. In the arcade, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you'd hit them with your 4 fingers like this. So if you made it landscape like this, right, having those 4 buttons would kind of extend how far the right-hand portion of it has to be, which might make it a little too big. But if you did it portrait like a Game Boy, you'd have your stick here, and then you'd have more room right there to do your 4 buttons. So that might be a better way to go. You know, I thought about hooking this up to the scope to see if there's any signals there. But I don't know, it's probably 115/200 baud, so you know, I'm just gonna wing it. Story of my life. This could be just for, you know, debugging purposes. It might not be left enabled, because they know if there's like anything accessible in a Linux system, it will be hacked, and then people will be able to put on their own ROMs and whatnot. Okay, so let's see, TX is gray. I'll go into RX of this. Okay, cool. Alright, so I've got that hooked up to the FTDI cable, so if there is anything there, I can see it with the serial terminal on my computer. Oh, the USB-C plug has a little Neo Geo logo on it. Cute. Alright, let's power it up and see if anything happens. Oh, look what we have here. Linux stuff. Pay no attention to my desktop icons. They might be like important and stuff. Oh no, a password. Well, that's definitely a serial terminal into the Linux system. So that's cool. I guess my spit ain't what it used to be. Yep, there's stereo separation. That's good. So I noticed something with the pixel scaling. Look at the letters high there at the top of the screen. One side of the H is thicker than the other. That is a classic indication of improper pixel scaling. Oh, there you go. The basic guts of the Neo Geo mini system. What did we learn? Well, you can access the terminal through a UART serial port. Wait, that's redundant. Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transceiver. Ah! Okay, so what did we learn? You can access the terminal through the serial port. This analog stick does suck. The pixel scaling is imperfect, but it actually looks pretty decent. And there is stereo sound. I wonder if you hook a mass storage device into one of these USB-C connectors, if you could mount it. I think I've got a pretty good solution here. Got the screen there. So take a look. So I doubled it over there. See, it's going that way. Then I bent a 90-degree turn here. So we've got our origami cable like that, and it lays down. Now this will take up some space where I want the buttons to go, but it's not a big deal. I mean, this thing's gonna be pretty thin anyway. Well, I started drawing this into the computer, basically the board outline as well as the screen. But before I get too much further with that, I think I want to test it with this. This is one of the best electronic things you can get. This is the Adafruit Power Boost 1000. It's really cool. You plug in a LiPo pack to this handy little port here. Oh look, it's on. And then it'll boost that LiPo to 5 volts and put the 5 volts right here on this USB connector, which you can also direct wire into things. The thing that's nice about this is it's got a boost circuit and a charger built into one. And you can also run your device while you're charging it, so it's really cool. So I was digging around through my LiPos. This one's probably a little on the small side. It's only 1,000 milliamp hours. I don't think that would last very long. This one I think is left over from the ZX Spectrum project. That one would fit. Think about it this way, like, you know, you're gonna have a LiPo and the boost circuit. As long as they both fit within the overall shape, I think you're good. So right here we've got these two 0 ohm resistors. Those are just acting as a bridge. I'm gonna beep it out. I know the one on the left is 5 volts. I think the other one is ground. Yep. And then this big capacitor is doing the filtering. So if we go to the positive side of the capacitor, should get a beep on the 5. Yep, there it is. Yeah, it's all pretty self-explanatory. So there's an enable and ground pin on this. That basically, you know, allows you to turn it on. So one thing that's really handy about this board is you can just slap in a little two-way switch like this. And as long as you have a connection between enable and ground, you can control it. I'm going to solder this battery directly up live because I'm sure it has a charge. So I just want to be, you know, careful. Obviously there's no danger until you have both of the lines, at which point a circuit can be formed. So I'm just going to make sure there's no loose strands. Pre-tin it. There we go. Just going to take it close, heat it up, let it set down, boom, done. Now when we flip the switch, we should get the light. There we go. It's ready to rock. Well, once we hook up the 5 volts, that is. So I'm just going to go over to these 0 ohm resistors, just give them a little bit of a solder blob. Oh yeah. Some of that nice juicy lead solder. Puts hair on your chest. Or maybe it like causes your hair to fall out. Who knows? Whatever. Alright. So, got our positive. Cool. Bring over the negative. See, the fact that I've pre-tinned these wires means they're predisposed to, you know, basically connect easily. Alright, positive side of the battery. Don't come loose. Baby, I wish I had 3 hands. Hey, look, it works. Off a battery. Why couldn't SNK do this? Yeah, so to detect current draw, you basically put your meter in line with the circuit, and then it will tell you how much current is being drawn, right? So I'm a little bit disadvantaged here because when we did our move, Felix accidentally took my, well, I hope it was an accident, accidentally took my alligator clip leads from my multimeter. But yeah, I guess I could just do it with my hands. Technically my skin would affect it, but probably not too much. Oh yeah, this isn't sketchy at all. Oh yeah, no sketch here. I really need to talk to Felix about getting those clips back. Okay, so see, the meter is going to be in line with the power. So when I power it, it's going to go through my meter and tell me what it's actually drawing. Set to min-max and activate. Okay, we're about 430 milliamps in the boot sequence, and then it should dip back down in the menu. All right. Okay, emulator is running, and we're at about 420. 420, man. All right, so this is a 2500 milliamp hour battery. That means it will give you 2500 milliamps for 1 hour, or it will last longer than an hour if you're using less than that. So yeah, you might think, oh, okay, 2500 divided by 500 is 5 hours, and it's probably not going to be quite that long, but I would say 4 hours would be pretty safe. I usually, you know, just take about 20% off the top. Yeah, they've got this castellated board here for the headphone jack. It's like, why was it so critical that it was at a certain vertical level? I mean, that, you know, that costs more money than not doing it. So it's weird. Like, this is a really, you know, well-made board, but they didn't spend money on micro switches, which is the thing everybody wanted. Oh, a castellated board is where you have a PCB that has kind of exposed vias on the side, so you can put a PCB on top of another PCB. You see it a lot in the ESP line of Wi-Fi processors. So I need to heat this up and lift it up. Actually, I think an X-Acto knife would probably be better for this. And you cast your spell, hypnotize with your... Great, I've got like... Is that Air Supply or America? I can't remember who sings that song. Just go back and forth, keep it hot. Bye-bye. And now, I have really convenient pads. Actually, I like this board. This is a nice board. That is a nice boulder. Just gonna push it with my finger on the other side. Yeah, this does get hot, but you know, pain, whatever. Can't make the Sistine Chapel without getting some paint dripping in your eyes. Oh my God, he just compared himself to Michelangelo and not the Ninja Turtle. Something else that can work against you in a situation like this is this filter cap, of course, is going to be attached to ground on one side. And if it's going to a ground plane, which it most likely is, that means there's probably a large flood fill of copper on the PCB. And that copper is going to sink all of the heat from your iron before it actually melts. Yeah, see how there's vias going through it as well? So yeah, there's probably a large copper area. So you're not just having to heat up the solder on that pad, you basically end up heating all the area around it, and then once the heat is saturated, then the solder might start to melt. It's kind of like defrosting a turkey, but in reverse. Cool. Oh yeah, look how thin this is getting. Now these speaker ones should be pretty easy. Again, if you want to remove solder, add solder. Well, you're not removing solder so much as you're removing the part. So I'm going to get it on the other side. I'm just going to, I'll probably just bend this one. So I'm pulling to the left with my finger. See that? Now I'm going to go to the right. Now I'm going to go down. Ta-da! Cool. Well, yeah, take a look. It's pretty thin. Look at that. Perfect for portable. Beauty. If anything, the battery, take a look at this. See if it, like, right? Battery actually would add more thickness The battery's thicker than the board, I guess I should say. Yes, it is. Yeah, so I should see if I can find, like, maybe a thinner, wider battery. But this one would still work. Yeah, alright. Well, now that I have this broken down, I'm going to do some more case design, and especially clicky joystick design.